Hello, this is Christopher Chesterman with Liberty University. America's Revolutionary War is filled with inspirational words and courageous deeds. One such legend holds that Molly Pitcher, who, upon seeing her husband fall on the field of battle, took up his position on the cannonade to repel the British until victory was won or retreat was ordered and enforced by the commanding officer, depending on which version you're reading. To understand the context of the story, it is important to understand the context of the events in which it happened. Women who followed the Continental Army were known as camp followers. They provided domestic services such as sewing and washing clothes, or even making food, such as baking bread. And they were serving mainly their husbands, their sons, and sometimes their brothers to help them in the war effort. In fact, one Sarah Osborne was reported to have brought beef tips and coffee to the soldiers during a battle, and Washington asked if she wasn't afraid of the cannonballs, to which she replied, "It would not do for the men to fight and starve too." So it was not uncommon. The most often cited source for the story of Molly Pitcher is Joseph Martin Plum's account of the battle in Monmouth. His account is he is not surprised to see a woman, only to see the actions that she performs. However, his account was written decades after the battle itself happened, which makes finding out who this woman was very difficult. The strongest candidate for the Battle of Monmouth was Mary Ludwig Hayes Macaulay, but the historical record is unclear. Her last name is spelled about 10 different times in the records that we do have. She was married to one of 3 men who were at the battle, and none of them died at the battle itself. They died years after the war. And she was not given credit as Molly Pitcher until after her death in 1832. And John B. Landis is the first person to write Macaulay as the Molly Pitcher, but he left no records of the sources that he used, and the primary source records we do have contradict what he wrote about her. So there is great difficulty determining that veracity. Another possibility is Margaret Cochran Corbin. She saw her husband die at the Battle of Fort Washington, and we have an eyewitness account that was written at the time that it happened by a doctor on scene. Corbin took over her husband's cannon, and she was shot in her right arm with grape shot, which was permanently damaged. And she was able to receive a soldier's pension from Congress, and included with that, along with the money, was a new suit that she got every year. And she milked that for all it was worth, because she died when she was 87. So what do we do with all this information with these 2 women who could be Molly Pitcher, and everything doesn't add up, and the camp followers? Well, they kind of blended together. You see, Molly Pitcher is a generic term that refers to women to relieve the men on the field of battle. They would bring water to help them refresh if they were hunkered down in some way. Also, they were responsible for wetting down or dampening parts of the cannon to prevent unused gunpowder from exploding everything around them. Furthermore, memories of the camp followers melded with the examples of Macaulay, Deborah Sampson, and Margaret Cochran Corbin. The first printed version came from Martha Washington's grandson from a previous marriage, George Washington Parke Custis. And he wrote between 1820 and 1840. His telling is exaggerated, and some of the facts are inaccurate, such as the number of casualties at a specific event. However, as these stories were circulating about, Benson Lossing created a single portrait from all the different accounts of the Molly Pitcher story. And his rendering came in 1851. The name itself was not used until artists gave her a name in their artistic depictions, especially with the illustrative books of the Revolutionary War that came out in the early to mid 1800s, when people were trying to reestablish a sense of patriotism within the country. Molly Pitcher is a symbol. She was romanticized and depicted as a homely wife, a devoted wife who also exhibited extreme patriotism. Mary Hayes was foul-mouthed, drunk, and chewed. She reportedly died of syphilis. Corbin constantly wore men's clothing. Neither of them matched the image that we have of Molly Pitcher. Plus, some of the facts don't quite add up as well. In 1860, Molly Pitcher was used during the gender debate as well about women's rights, women getting the right to vote, and both sides of the issue used the image of Molly Pitcher to promote their views. So where does that leave us? One historian claims that her conjured tale masks the hard work of hundreds of thousands of real women who labored for 8 years as our nation struggled for independence. It is my contention, however, that in telling her story, and the investigative nature of her possible identities, we have a fuller understanding of the depth of unity during the Revolutionary War effort. Thank you.